Thank you so much to everybody that helps us do what we do. Was anybody here last Sunday at all? What do we start talking about? Salt and light, right? Try saying it. Salt and light. Just in case you weren't here, and for our new guests we've got this morning. And by the way, again, I want to say I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to worship with us today. We recognize in the area we live in, there's so many churches you could have been anywhere, but you're here with us, and we greatly appreciate that. And if you'll turn this microphone up just a little bit, I've got some vocal issues today. Does everybody hear me okay? We good? Okay. Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. Quick review. What does it say? If we were to read it, it would look something like this. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, and by that it means its strength or its quality, interesting words, how can its saltness be restored? It is not good for anything any longer, but to be thrown out and trodden underfoot by men. Verse 14. I'm going to teach you something else today. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Somebody say salt and light. We're going to learn today why that God compared those two, salt and light. But if we just talk about salt just for a moment, this is the old stuff. So just shout like you're happy anyway, even though you've already heard it. Salt by its nature, sodium chloride. It's a type of a metal and a non-metal mixed together that creates such a dramatic compound that whatever it's placed upon it adds flavor. And you know I'm right? Did anybody do what I challenged you to? Did you count how many times you touched that salt shaker this past week? Did anybody try it at all? You didn't try it all? Okay, you got to do it again this week. You failed this last week's assignment. You got to try it again. Remember, the assignment was to see how many times you sprinkle salt and see how many times you use a light. Whether it's a light or a light switch, your headlights, it doesn't matter. I want you to realize how important that salt and light is in your everyday life. The reason that it's important is not just because it adds flavor, but it's actually determined that the human body, an adult human body, contains up to 3 full salt shakers inside of it. Salt is necessary for your survival. If you don't have enough, your cells become flooded, and through a process, you'll end up drowning your brain to death. Through the process, if you get too much salt, things will dry up and shrivel up, and you'll die through the process. So you've got to have just the right amount inside of your own body. And last week, we talked about, we read some scriptures about how that we're supposed to have salt in the body, and we came to this interesting conclusion. If you remember, we talked about that church is a place where if you come and you're trying to be salt here, you're just trying to salt. And we get this dilemma where we get too much salt in the body, and it explains why most of the body of Christ is dead and powerless to perform and can't go forward, because we got too many ministries to the saints. We've got too many in-reaches instead of outreaches, and through the process, we're trying to just shine light. And remember, we had the flashlight. We were trying to just shine it in here and didn't do much, but you cut the light off, and what happens? It begins to work and expose things that if the only time we ever raise our hands, the only time we ever pray over anything that's included in our food, if the only time we ever talk to God is in this place, we've missed the point, and we're simply shining light where the light's already turned on. What did God challenge us to do? We're not the salt of the church. We're not the light of the church, but we are the salt of where? The earth. In other words, God, He desires for us to be used not in here, but somebody say it, out there. There we go. We're on the good page. We're going forward. Whatever salt is placed on, it can become enough like what it's around, yet enough different, and maintain its shape and what it was meant to do, that it adds to it. And remember that we talked about how God has called us to add to things. Add to people's lives. Add to our friends. Add to our family. Not complain about what we don't like, but if we don't like it, add to it and make it better. We talked about how salt was a preservative, and you have to be careful, because this is what most of the Christian world has done. We've tried to preserve Christendom. We've tried to preserve through religious processes, but the thing about it is, anything you preserve has to be dead first, and it has to be dried up, and we can preserve it, but God didn't call us just to preserve things, because He didn't call us just to keep things where they are till they get dead and dried up, but He calls us to take something that was dead and be able to preserve that new life can be brought into it. We read scripture about that, right? Anybody, you know where I'm going with this then, right? Lastly, we talked about 2 Kings, that there was a pool of water in verse 2 and 21 that was contaminated, and it said that God told the prophet Elisha to go and sprinkle some salt in it. And then God made the astounding statement and said, don't get it twisted or confused. It's not the salt, but it's I that does the miracle. And it opened up this whole new world of understanding, because even though God does the work, guess who he uses? Wave at me if you're listening to me. He uses us, which tells me that's why that you're in the place that you don't like and the family that's messed up, because God, he's going to change it and do it, but he's going to do it through you, because you are the salt of the earth. Is that enough for a review? Can we get to the new stuff today? Salt and light. Try saying it one more time. Salt and light. We talked about as a subtopic, don't have time to go into it, identity and relevance. And if you weren't here last week, please get that CD or DVD or watch it on YouTube for free, whatever you want to do. But make sure you understand that today we're still talking about salt and light, but a different subtopic. If you look in Mark chapter 7, verse 1, let's read this together. It says it to us like this. Then came together under him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. Verse 2 reads it to us like this. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, where are we? Yep, disciples eat bread that was defiled, that is to say, with unwashed hands, they found fault. Verse 3. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands often, they eat not, holding to the tradition of the elders. We'll talk about this in a moment. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they don't eat. And many other things there be which they have received to hold. This is a whole lot of talk to say. Not only is it important that they wash their hands, but they also observe washing of cups and pots and brazen vessels and tables. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, talking to Jesus, and said, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? In a nutshell, what's going on? The disciples came in, they were hungry, they began to eat without washing their hands, and some Pharisees and some scribes, and we don't have time to go into that, as a group of people that said, you know what, you're not obeying tradition, you're not going by the laws that we live our life towards, you're eating with unclean hands. And how many love Jesus? He's almost borderline smart aleck sometime, isn't he? Am I the only one that gets that? I just love to hear him talk, because he answers questions like you should know the answer in the first place. He's just got a great way of doing that, and I love it. Listen to what he says in verse 18. And he said unto them, Are ye so without understanding? He's like, don't you all get it? Do ye not perceive that whatsoever thing from within or without entereth into man, it cannot defile him? He was trying to say, you're so concerned about dirty hands defiling you. Did you know that what's on the outside can't get in to defile what's on the inside? Because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and goeth out the draught, purging all meats, talking about your body, digest it. And in other words, it can't get into your heart. Verse 20 tells us like this. And he said, that which cometh out of the man, that defileth. Whoa, that's deep right there. And then he lists some things in 21 talking about what comes out from within. Out of the heart of man proceeds evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders. It's getting good in the place. Thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, and evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. Hope you're not raising your hands. Hope those don't apply. All these evil things come from within and defile the man. Jesus sums this up by making it so simple. If you can't get all that through this, just get this right here. Jesus said, it's not what's on the outside that defiles you, it's what comes out of you that defiles you. In other words, it's not what's on your hands, it's what's in your heart. And that changes everything. We're talking about salt and light on this subject of unwashed hands. Somebody say unwashed hands. Jesus said it's not what's in your hand, it's what's in your heart. The issue with these Pharisees and these scribes is that they were more concerned with an outward image that made them look together than they were with an inward position that made them whole. Did I say it too quick? Everybody got that? In other words, they thought it was all about their hips, lips, and fingertips and looking good and walking the right way and wearing their hat and all the other good stuff and making sure their garments were clean and everything was spotless. That on the outside, man, people could look at them and say, they have got it together. I would love to be like them. But I promise, when you finally get close to somebody that looks like they have it together, you'll find out the plate don't sit straight on the table. All right, maybe you don't know anybody like that. What's more important than looking like you have it together on the outside is a place, a position where you're whole on the inside. Because it's not what's on the outside that defiles you, it's what's on the inside. Why?